Good morning. Welcome to the Driller Newscast, a weekly update on the news and stories impacting the drilling, the construction, and the geothermal industry. I'm your host, Brock Yordy, and we've just wrapped up the pilot training tutorial at HEET in downtown Boston. We graduated 7 amazing new individuals to the geothermal industry. And we couldn't have done this without HEET in collaboration with IGSPA, the Geothermal Drillers Association, and the drillers who contributed from Skillings to Midwest Geothermal, Rototech, Matrix Tooling Products popped up in there, Thermex Geothermal Robert Meyer, Dave Bowers with the local 150 Operators Union in Wilmington, Illinois, Operators Union of Chicago, Garrett Carino with American Drilling in New York. It's been an amazing 10 days and we're exhausted. And our feature this week will be with Angie and Stacy to talk about their experiences of this. But before we jump into that feature, let's talk some safety and professionalism for the industry. So I want to shift gears this week. Safety and professionalism. And as we're developing new professionals for this industry, it's about our professional presence and our ability to, 1, see the opportunities in front of us, and 2, execute them safely. Skillings and Sons, well drilling, geothermal drilling, they were world class. I can't thank them enough for inviting us to sites across Massachusetts where they were drilling, working together, grouting, doing the processes smart, safe, and methodical. And it can show in the growth of that company and their professionalism. Well done. With those thoughts, I want you to consider, as we build these centers of excellences and we start graduating new industry professionals, and sure, we have this situation just like the brewing industry did, where you had self-taught tribal brewers, and suddenly community colleges and technical colleges across the country started developing scientifically fundamental brewers. And of course, without water, without drilling, you don't have beer. So that's why I think there's a great correlation here. But we have plenty of drillers out there that understand the science and fundamentals and the math. And then we also have our tribalism and experiences, what we've gotten out of this industry and how we develop. And that moves right into safety, where 1 out of 3 professionals on site feels unsafe doing an act. I see posts still asking about Murphy plugs. There's not a rig manufacturer out there. There's hands-free rod handling. I see billion-dollar companies telling new hires that, nope, you're going to be handling drill rods. And the new hires going, wait, what? Those rods, Brock just did the math with me. They're 291 pounds per rod. That leads into professionalism, standard operating procedures, a safety policy that is strong and robust, that understands about work alone policies and how we effectively execute, how we report near misses. How do we have full amnesty to make sure professionals continue to grow, or if they feel unsafe? So right now, Massachusetts, the New England states, New York, Illinois, they're all moving towards developing drillers, developing field technicians, developing assistant drillers. And this pilot training that we just did was to develop field technicians, geothermal field technicians, to understand the roles and responsibilities and their tasks to support an assistant driller and a driller. We didn't call them a grouter. We didn't call them a helper. We didn't call them a pusher or whatever the industry tribalism is trying to force down a throat. We call them field technicians, so that there's a milestone for them to level up. Because every bit of this new generation are gamers. Every bit of this new generation understands milestones and everything. So we start as field technicians. We give them the playbook in our standard operating procedures, how we lay out a job site, how we effectively manage tools, how we support an assistant driller in tripping in and tripping out, tool handling, makeup, breakout, the right components. And then ultimately, with that, the goal is whole completion. You talk to these 7 students, you ask them what their goals are for the day. Operate safely, Brock, and work towards whole completion and job completion. So we obviously can always have a war on knowledge or book learned versus tribal learned. But we should be able to see the middle ground of setting professionals up to be able to step on a job site, recognize hazards, unsafe acts, unsafe conditions, and then be able to do the task at hand. If your company doesn't have standard operating procedures, doesn't have a safety handbook, how do you effectively hire a new generation? And what does that cost you when they get hurt or they leave to do something else? Professionalism and safety work hand in hand. And that's what we have to be considering. Our feature this week is with Angie and Stacy of HEET, along with multiple other members of the HEET team. These 2 were integral parts of developing the relationships and the opportunities and the possibilities to be on site, to operate safely, to build all that we needed to have a successful 10-day intensive. And I can't thank them enough. And I can't thank Andrew enough and the entire HEET team, including Zainab, who is doing so much in the state of Massachusetts, New England, and across the globe. And so as I think about these things, we set students up to be positive, effective professionals. We talked about career choices. We talked about the choice to make an unsafe act, understanding how to recognize an unsafe condition. We did the math for boreholes on multiple different grout combinations. We talked about the importance of water quality. We talked about the importance of why we keep a site clean, from environmentalism to all that is involved in operating effectively, to noise mitigation, to identifying when it's too hot or what is happening with a neighbor that we need to choose. So we will continue to talk about this, but this pilot program will continue to develop. There's more professionals looking to jump in. These young men and women are ready to be hired. And I think you're going to see this with enthusiasm. We have plenty of social media pieces coming out, commentaries, everything that we want to think about. But when it comes to the geothermal industry right now, I said this in our safety part, standard operating procedures, understanding how we define roles and responsibilities and tasks, and setting jobs up to be effective and productive. I want to introduce you to Angie and Stacy right now. Again, dang, this has been a fun few weeks. For this week's feature, we have just had this wild 2 weeks, but really it's been months in the making at HEET, along with collaboration of IGSPA and the Geothermal Drillers Association. And one, if you haven't met or went to the HEET website, go there. And we talked last week with Angie, who talked about HEET being spunky and all of these great aspects of what HEET's doing, but I have Stacy with me, who I'll allow a moment to introduce herself. But as we go spunky to the left of me, we have 100% executioner on the right, who has helped us put together a pilot training program tutorial on the fly that we had curriculum, but let's face it, drilling industry, drills move, drills don't get mobilized, cell phones aren't allowed on drill sites. There's all sorts of aspects. And so we've brought 7 people together, and we just graduated them today, and you'll see this next Monday, and we will be back to our professional careers on so many levels. But it's been a whirlwind, and we're all on this high right now. And so I'm going to pass it over to Stacy to introduce herself and like your experience with this.
Hi, Stacy Canale. On the HEET team, I actually joined initially with grants and fundraising, and ended up transitioning to project management and really moving forward important programs, and got involved in workforce, have been collaborating with, like we said, IGSHPA and GDA and many other industry groups to hopefully down the road form a center of excellence around geothermal drilling that this pilot was an initial kickoff for. So thrilled to be part of it. The students were incredible. We spent some wonderful time really trying to find the right group that would be interested, and did a terrific job, I think. It has been a whirlwind. We have been in the classroom a fair amount, out on site a ton to really reinforce what we learned in the classroom. Tons of high energy, lots of laughing. So the combination of true engagement in the technology and also true engagement around getting to know each other, that combination was really nice. So anyway, that's a little bit about me, and we'll go from there.
Angie, we brought 7 professionals together, and you had a big piece to do with that. How do you think this wrapped up?
Yeah, I saw every single one of those fine young men and women beaming at the end of this. We each shared a single word when we went around the table after certificates and graduation ceremonies were had. And I can just say that every single one of the comments that were made were, around being empowered, being proud of themselves, being inspired and motivated. And to have that impact on somebody's life is so meaningful. And we are really excited to stay connected with them, to support them through their journey and their career, hopefully in geothermal drilling. That's really the path that we've set out for them. So really hope that they take that up.
So from a grant writing, you have a fantastic career of all of these great things you've brought to the HEET team, along with everybody at HEET having these different perspectives. But how about trying to build a training around active drill sites and like that? How was that?
Well, it certainly would have been easier if we had the equipment and a site that we just knew we could go to each day to learn, not just in a classroom but there on site. So we had to put it together ad hoc, leveraging the wonderful volunteerism of some of the drill companies that were local. So yeah, a lot of moving parts. Actually, we had probably 5 or 6 different plans that in some way morphed or got rescheduled or that kind of thing. Even the day of, sometimes we'd find out that something changed. And to your point, right? You never know what's going to be under the subsurface that changes the plan, or where a drill company may be. So there were, it did, as planned as we tried to be, it did feel a bit on the fly because of these changes. But I think we succeeded. And that is really a credit to Brock and his relationship with, and kindness in terms of meeting the people on the sites when we get there. I also think it's just super generous of the companies that took us on to not just be generous, but also have a view towards the future and understand the value of this kind of training. In fact, I think there wasn't a place we visited that someone didn't sort of on the side say to me, "Oh, I really wish this had existed when I got started." So that was super validating.
Angie, we talk about my relationships, but you as director of Gas to Geo have developed relationships with drilling companies. Are there any shout outs or things that come to mind as you reached out and said, can we visit the site?
Yeah, absolutely. To Stacy's point, a lot of options were out there when it came to the when it came to the rubber really hitting the road. I just want to give a massive shout out to Skillings and Co. Um, you know, I would not endorse a single company that's not really heat style, but Skillings really did a lot for this particular program. The drilling, the pilot driller training tutorial. So I just have to thank them. We were out on their site for 3 days, and they were engaging with the students. The students got to interact with some of the equipment on site, some of the, well, not, maybe I shouldn't say that, not the equipment, not the drill rig, but they got to see what a grouted hole looks like, what the loop looks like, what materials made, how pliable it is, things like that is what they got to interact with. And I just got to say that the students were beaming, not just because they got to interact with certain elements on site, but because of the reception of the drillers on site, their willingness to come up and forward and share some of their knowledge, some of the tribal knowledge, as Brock says, calls it, which is actually super, super valuable. And I think I said in the call to action last episode, please share your knowledge. But that's what they were privy to, not just by being on site, but by having a collaborative energy on site.
So last words as we're running out of time here at the CIC. I'm going to hand back over to Stacy in this feature because writing grants and whatnot, now you got into the field and you got to see some things and you got to interact with drillers and students. Was there any aha moments or anything that was like, oh, this is this part?
I mean, gosh, there were a ton. There were so many. I don't know how to probably, articulate or narrow down. Literally seeing the rigs themselves in action. At one point, we've talked about this. The students were all gathered around, and one of the drillers was both informing and also, I think, creating laughter. And to me, I mentioned this a minute ago, but to me, that's aha, that, the industry does seem to be older and we need, fresh interest and ambition and the building of careers. And so to see that combination of the new and the older and, wanting to help each other and everybody sort of combined in their vision for the future of geothermal drilling, super inspiring. Yeah.
I love it. I cannot thank these two enough, along with Andrew and the entire HEET team. I don't want to miss anybody, but Andrew, again, including bringing donuts on his bike today to the BU Jenga building. But this was awesome, and it's just the first one. As you see the photos go out of day 4 and day 8 and whatnot, but really, watch out, industry, because we're going to continue this, and next time you should be contributing with us. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Isabel, Zainab, Rachel, the entire team, Eric, who came out and showed us the integrator and how we can measure loops. Eric Bosworth with Eversource came out and showed us the control rooms. We walked the BU building that has 1,500-foot RIGAN loops set in it, 31 of them that Skillings kicked butt doing. We are on the edge of just the biggest geothermal revolution ever. And it's going to take all of us. So I want you to think right now as a drilling company, are you diversifying in geothermal? I want you to think as a HVAC company, why not now? Why don't I find that partnership? If you're not drilling geothermal along with water wells, you're missing out on an opportunity. Thanks again, HEET, IGSPA, Geothermal Drillers Association, Eversource, American Well and Pump, the Local 150, Midwest Geothermal, Rototech, Skillings and Sons. Thank you. Brightcore HR came in and gave a discussion about, expectations on a job. We saw a lot go on, and a lot of great other professionals want to be involved in the next one, and I can't wait to have you. Thanks, everybody.